And welcome to a brand new, yes, a brand new Watford Orns. Look, it's great to be here, Omar Moore. Shortly going to be on X in just a few moments' time. But it's great to see you if you were here on Orns WFC on the YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. Yours truly, Omar here. It is great to hear you and see you whenever you happen to be listening aboard to this or watching it. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. I know it's late at the time I'm doing this, late night across the United Kingdom. It's almost midnight, so certainly wouldn't blame you for not showing up here because, of course, it's still the afternoon on Friday afternoon here in sunny San Francisco. It's been very, very lovely today. Great weather. And it continues on here in sunny San Francisco. Very nice to see you. My name is Omar. Of course, looking back at this transfer deadline window that we've had, this whole, not just today, but the whole of the summertime is something that, of course, and I do hope that you are doing well. I hope that you got a chance to look at this deadline window as I've done over the last, 2 months or so, and see a Watford side, quite frankly, a Watford club that we love so much. I think trying to do some very good positive things. Hello, Billy on a YouTube. Nice to see you, Billy. Signings look great, says Billy. Thank you, Billy. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Hello to you, Billy, on this Friday night, wherever you might be across the world. Billy, welcome aboard. And to everybody who is watching this at a later date or live or listening on X, great to have you aboard. Thank you very much indeed. I would love to get some feedback from you all about what your analysis of the transfer window is. Of course, if you are on X, please hit the request button. I will read out your comments on X as well as on YouTube live. Nick, hello to you, Nick, on X. Thank you very much, Nick. Good to see you. Hope you're well on this Friday night in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to be reading all your comments. So if you want to just put your comments in on X, if you don't want to speak, you're more than welcome to hit the request button and chime in as well verbally. But if you just want to type in your comments on X, you're more than welcome, of course, to do that, obviously. And I will be reading those out as well as on YouTube. Billy Hughes on YouTube, by the way, says, now I'm only worried that some players won't get game time who deserve it. And you know what, Billy? That's one thing I would say before I get into my analysis. That's what is really good about this window, because I think Watford have created this environment now where you've got a lot of energy, but you've got energy for places, competition for places, and it actually builds team spirit. And that, I think, makes things go really well for us, because you want to be motivated at a club like this, especially after the lean years, especially the miserable years. I think there's a difference between having lean years and having miserable years. And of course, we as Watford fans have had a lot of lean years, but we've had a lot of miserable years, and the miserable years have happened over the last few seasons. And so I think that to your point, Billy, this window has been very vigorous in some senses, and it also really builds team spirit and chemistry. Now, it's always good to build and easier to build team spirit and chemistry when you're winning games, when you're going 5 for 5 and you're 100%. But the bottom line is I think that this transfer window, which had initially been very sluggish for us, I think picked up noticeably over the last week or 2 weeks. I think that Watford, going now more to the analysis, have just about strengthened in places I think they need to. They may still be a little bit short in midfield, given the injury to Loser, but was Loser going to stay here anyway? Now he's probably going to stay that he's injured. I don't know which club's picking him up, but he is not getting the playing time, Loser. So that's not the one that I think Tom Cleverley is going to be focused on. And look, if you want to chime in, please hit the request button on X. Keep your comments coming in on X and on YouTube, which I'm going on live now. If you can see on YouTube, go to the Orns WFC YouTube channel. But in terms of the energy for places and the competition for places, I think this window has turned out to be quite good, quite good. Look at who's gone and look at who's come in. You know, technically Bio left, but he came right back, of course, because Udinese swapped him back in for a season-long loan. So he's back at Watford on loan. I know lots of fellow Watford supporters do not, well, I shouldn't say lots. There's a cross-section a segment of the Watford faithful who do not really care for Mr. Bio. Of course, I am not one of them, as I think as some people know. But he's not scored enough goals, 100% true there. But at least I think with this loan, he knows that this is going to be the end of the road for him at Watford. He wanted to leave Watford, which I had not known until earlier this week. So shame on me for not knowing that before only this week, that he actually wanted out of Watford. And Tom Cleverley really didn't want to leave and let him go. That's what the reports are. And the bottom line is now they are accommodating his requests. So look, he's going to be leaving. I think there'll be some Watford fans who will not be crying about that for Bio. But look, the bottom line is you still got a player here that works very hard for the team. And I think that's what you've got now. You've got a team that's playing together, a team that's unselfish, a team that really likes playing football together on the pitch, and a team that's got a renewed confidence after this really good start to the season. Billy Hughes has said on YouTube, for example, our attacking midfielders are all brilliant. However, we can only play two. But that shouldn't be a complaint, Billy continues, because these players, e.g. Vata and Barr, are great, and they can interchange with Georgia. Yeah, great points. I was going to get to Barr and Vata. All these folks that left Watford and the ones that have come in. Carlu has left. That came out very late tonight. Carlu has left the building for Watford. Quite a shame, that one with Carlu. And look, because Carlu, I think he was a diamond that never got polished. You know, people talked about how old he was or how young he was or how old he really was and all the rest of it, but we never really got to see the best of Carlu as far as this is concerned. But Carlu has gone for good, sadly, I think. I mean, I think he probably had a bit more potential than he was allowed to be shown, didn't get much playing time. And so Carlu is gone. He's out the building, as is Shaq Ford. Shaq Ford has gone permanently as well. He goes to Bristol Rovers. Boy, Shaq Ford, he was really a good lightning rod for us, but it's just too bad. Again, got loaned out several times, didn't get a lot of time with us. And there you go with Shaq Ford. He goes permanently, and I wish him very well at Bristol Rovers. I think he's going to have a very good career. I think in a few years' time, some of us as Watford supporters look back at Shaq Ford and go, why? Why did we let him go? But you know what? Sometimes there are surplus to requirements. Sometimes there are a number of considerations as to why players don't end up at the Vic or stay there for very long. And look, considering everything, Shaq Ford, I think, had a little run. I thought he was decent for us. Really liked the way he played. Got a lot of good energy. We gave him a few first team runs. He got some time. I remember him playing, well, I think in the year that we got promoted to the Prem, he played the final game of that season where we lost the game at Brentford, I think it was, something like that, or our last away game of the season. He was good in that one, despite the fact that it was either him or Hungbo. Maybe it was Hungbo. Maybe I'm probably getting mixed up with. But Shaq Ford is gone. Shaq, I wish you the very best in your footballing career. Espria, we already knew was going to go. That was no surprise. He is at Girona in Spain, enjoying himself. Best of luck to him. Wesley Hood was also one that a number of Watford fans have been telling me about because I had not seen the reports of Wes Hood. Wes Hood now is a player in Saudi Arabia, enjoying a lot of money, I'm sure, as is, of course, of players like Ivan Toney from the Premier League who went there as well tonight in a deal there. But that's Brentford. We don't really care about Brentford, do we? We care about our Watford team. And our Watford side, I think, is looking really good. Hurtado on loan. He was loaned out from us. We loaned him out. But look who came in. This is what I want to get to. And fellow Watford supporters, whether you're on X or whether you are watching live on YouTube, keep the comments coming. I'm going to read them out. If you want to chime in on X and have your voice be heard as a Watford supporter, please don't hesitate to come in on this very late night in the United Kingdom. I know it's late, so thank you for staying up. And if you're in New Zealand, it, of course, is probably sometime in the early afternoon hours, if I might not be mistaken about that, maybe just turning afternoon in New Zealand. Let us know how you are doing. Also, let us know what you thought of the Watford window. Were you happy? Are you underwhelmed? Are you satisfied? Are you kind of feeling underwhelmed by what Watford have done in these last 2 months and what they've done in these last 2 weeks? I think is quite noteworthy. And I'm going to just talk about that before I do. Read out your comments here on X as well. I think we're a serious team, says Nick, this year. We have started acting like a champions team and looking more like a team than I have seen in years. Thank you, Nick, for that comment on X. Nick with the comment on X. You can leave your comments on X. You can leave your comments on YouTube, or you can hit the request button on X. And of course, you can tell us what you think about this Watford window. Watford, the window is shut now. Watford have brought in a number of players. They've let go of the likes of Hoot and Espria. Those are two of the biggest names, and technically they let go of Bio as well. And Udinese, the other club, of course, that the Pozzos own, have now loaned him back to Watford for the remainder of this season. And at that end of that, he'll be off back to Udinese. And so that is where we go. What do you think is the most important signing that Watford did in this window? Please chime in. I'll read out all your comments on YouTube and here on X as well. And of course, if you want to have your say on X, please hit the request button and we can all listen to you, your thoughts and impressions about the Watford deadline today, the window, not just today, but of course, the last couple of months for Watford. What are your feelings about how far we might be able to go this season as a result of what we've done in this market? Obviously, we are going to be tremendously influenced by the 5 Alive start, 5 for 5. We are 5 Alive. We are 100%. And that's obviously going to, I think, color our feelings and opinions about this transfer market. Had we been struggling this season, we might look at these transfers that we got in and maybe have a different view of them. But as for me, I think we did very well. Now, I did a podcast episode, which was released today on Orns podcast, which is available on Apple and Spotify and others. And I gave this a B-. Now, that was before I saw the deal tonight with Festi, who's come in, is a player who's a right wing back player. He's a player that will give some pace and dimension. He's a young lad coming in. And I think that will be a useful one for us. It's a loan deal, so we'll see where that goes. But I think that was a nice one. Daniel Jefferson is someone we have known now for, 2 or 3 weeks. He was going to be coming into the Vic. I think he's going to be a very good player. 21 years old, just turned 21 a couple of weeks ago. He's got a lot of energy. He attacks the ball. He attacks spaces very well. He's not afraid to take on defenders. He can run off the shoulder. He likes the ball to feet. He's scored some very good goals. He has a mixture of that poacher's mentality, but he's also one of them who runs off the last defender, and he's very good with the ball and good at pace with the ball, which I think Watford miss a lot of. They don't have, at least not lately that I can think of, and if I'm wrong, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, fellow Watford supporters, they don't have a player in a striker's role like that who can really run with the ball at a defense and take on players. And this Daniel Jefferson, who's come in, of course, off of a loan from Bournemouth, can take on players. He can take on defenders. He can score from 15, 20 yards out. He can score from the touch. He can tap it in. He's a good reaction player. He'll come off of a rebound and he'll take the shot. He's a good clinical finisher. He just knows his way around the box and he asserts himself. So he's going to be a very dynamic option for Watford coming in. I am very high on Daniel Jefferson. I've watched some of the film on him. I've learned a bit about him, and I think he's going to be very aggressive. I think he's got a point to prove. He's a youngster, so he's going to be fearless. He's somebody who's got good technical ability. He's got a point to prove because, look, he came to Bournemouth, and Bournemouth only played him twice. And one of those 2 times he was at Bournemouth, which has only been since July. One of those 2 times that he got to play for Bournemouth was just this week. And Cleves was in the audience, was in as a stands at the London Stadium when Bournemouth traveled to West Ham. So the bottom line there, I think West Ham won that game on penalties or something, and that's the Carabao Cup this week. But Jefferson just played in that game. So he's obviously match fit to a degree. He played the first 45 minutes of that game. So it's not as if Daniel Jefferson is going to be coming in unfit. Now, we had that problem a lot of times with players coming in here who are either injured or unfit. But Daniel Jefferson, fellow Watford supporters, is going to be a live wire. I think he's going to be very effective for us. And so I'm very, very pleased about that one. Kevin came in as well. Of course, he is a central defender, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But the bottom, or I forget, is he central midfielder? No, central defender. I'm sorry. Kevin is a central defender. 4-year deal offer from Toulouse. He's a young lad. He has a knee injury at the moment, slight knee problem. So he's going to be, according to Clevs, coming in and playing probably toward the end of next month into early October. That's when we can first expect to see Kevin come in. That was a nice signing. Ogbonna, the defender, veteran footballer, of course, Italian international, played with West Ham, played with a number of Italian clubs. He knows his way around the Premier League. That's a good experience signing. Gives us the stability in the middle of our central defense that we need. As you know, King Clebs, as I'm now calling him after these first 5 games, values a back 3. That's his plan. He's loving that back 3. And so far, they've not disappointed. And I think if you put Ogbonna in there, I think he'll look like a Rolls Royce. 36. I know some people might be concerned about the age, but I think he is still a pretty darn useful player with lots of experience, lots of know-how, lots of savvy. He'll provide some leadership. I mean, you put him in the middle of that lineup with the likes of a Searalter and a Pollock. I think you're going places with him. I think long-term, well, not long-term, but during this season, he'll work his way into that starting 3 at the back. Porteous, of course, is probably still going to come off the bench for you. James Morris, as you know, this week has been playing some central defense. So that's a deep end position. He kind of got thrown into the deep end and did a pretty blooming good job from what I heard. I didn't see the game against Plymouth, but I did hear that James Morris was pretty blooming good in central defense on Tuesday night. And so I think what you're going to see is a lot more competition for places. And I'm going to read out your comments on X and on YouTube. So I'll pause now before continuing about my analysis of this transfer market for us. Billy Hughes has said, Alex says, is it too optimistic to dream of playoffs? No, Alex, it's not. It is not too optimistic to dream of playoffs. Thank you for the comment. You know, it's interesting, Alex, and for everyone listening and watching, many of us as Watford supporters before this season began were very, very, very negative, or maybe just very realistic about Watford's chances this season. A number of Watford fans I consulted on Instagram at Orns WFC on Instagram thought that this was going to be a relegation scrap season for us. And I did not believe that by any stretch, but there were some who did. There was 1 or 2 who even thought we were going down. After the back of last season, you know what? In some ways, I can't blame some of us for thinking that way. But based on what Cleverly did with those remaining 9 games at the end of last season, I thought that it was not going to be anywhere near a relegation issue. I was thinking more in the top 10, mid-table, top 10, probably around 8th or 9th. That was my initial thought and prediction. I didn't publicize that prediction very much, but I was thinking 8th, 9th, or 10th this season for Watford. And in some ways, I'm still thinking that even despite this razor-sharp start, maybe a push toward the playoffs. That was my initial thought before the season began, but definitely not relegation scrap and definitely not relegated. No chance of that. I did not think that. But a lot of Watford fans, Alex, probably have a very different view now after what we've seen in the first 5 games of August. We are almost at the end of August, and Watford won every one of their games this month, which means that Tom Cleverley is probably going to get that dreaded Sky Bet Championship Manager of the Month for August, or maybe the Sunderland manager might get it. But Alex, thanks for the comment there. Brown Electrons has joined us on YouTube, and he says, squad is looking more healthy. I hope Barr is not pushed down the pecking order and still get some game time this season. Yeah, Brown Electrons, I'm with you, mate. I am praying that they don't do anything silly with Barr. Barr's paid his dues. He's been loaned out, and that's the life of a footballer. The parent club loans you out, and you wonder if you're going to ever see any football glory with your parent club. And so I think now the time is right for Barr to be an established part of this first team. Watford fans, please hit the request button if you are on X, or if you have a comment on X, you can chime in with a comment there as well. And so you're more than welcome to join in and have a say as Watford finish their transfer business, I think, very well. Now, I'm going to read out the rest of these comments before getting back to some of the other things I really want to point out about this Watford transfer window. Now, Brown Electrons, thank you for your comment on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, Orns WFC. Please subscribe. Billy Hughes has joined us again, and his comment is that Cleverley is exciting. He says, can't wait to see him prove himself against City and Sheffield United. Well, Billy, I can say this to you. against Sheffield United. That's going to be a very interesting prospect now, a couple of days from now. Why do I say that? Because Daniel Jebison was a former Sheffield United player. That is going to be the perfect environment to stick him in. Bring him in off the bench, second half, and let him do his thing. I would love to see Clevs bring Daniel Jebison on to play that game a Sunday at Bramall Lane against his former club. I mean, listen, he's fit. He played 45 minutes on Wednesday. He's absolutely ready to play right now, Billy. Absolutely ready to play. Stick him in the lineup, stick him in the off the bench, I'd say. Bring him off the bench and let him go. Wind him up and let him go. I think this man's got lots to prove. I think he will probably feel that he got hard done by. Listen, that's the life of a footballer. But I do think that Daniel Jebison, being a fearless young lad, someone that knows his way around goal at Burton Albion, he was 7 out of 20 for them. That was 7 goals in 20 appearances for those of you following at home. And that was in the 2021-22 season or thereabouts. So I think that Daniel Jebison has an upside to him. As I've said on the podcast, which I released on Friday, Daniel Jebison is not coming in here to be a savior. He is not coming to Watford to be a savior. He's coming to Watford to do his job. Very simple. He's coming to Watford to do his job, which is to score goals, stick that ball in the back of the net, hardest thing to do in football. But this man, Daniel Jebison, not coming to be the savior, but he is coming to do his job, which is what Watford fans have cried out for a real striker now for a number of years. But look, I think he's raring to go. I have high hopes for him. I am very bullish on him. I'm very optimistic in general about a number of these things, and I am very realistic as well. But I think that Daniel Jebison, Billy, will be the tonic for Cleverley, and he might play a major role this weekend if Cleverley puts him in the lineup somewhere. So yeah, Cleverley is exciting. To add to your point, I thought it was exciting last season. I was one of those Watford supporters, and I know I wasn't the only one, who wanted Clev signed on a permanent basis. Even after the first couple of games, I was saying, you know what? This man has to be signed in full time for us. We can't go to the new season looking for another new manager. That makes no sense. We want some continuity. So I think Cleverley can do some very good things. Look, it made sense to keep Clevs, no matter what the season was last season. The man coached the under-18s. He's been around the club. He knows the club. He knows the fans. He loves the fans. The fans love him. He's been a match winner. He's been a Premier League winner. He's been an England international to the best of my recollection. I don't even, it's been a long time now since that happened, if I'm not mistaken. But look, the man knows his way around Watford. I wish he'd go to, can he go to, I know the Watford admin talked about Fridays, Cleverly doing Fridays. Can he do Fridays, like the actual Fridays? I mean, the real Fridays, the fish and chippy, about 500 yards away from the Vic. Can he do Fridays? That's what I was saying on X earlier at Orns WFC. But no, all kidding aside, I think that Cleverly is really the right man for the job at the right time. He's from inside the club. The fan base loves him. He was here for 2 different tours of duty, if you will. He was the club captain. His career ended in the way he didn't want it to. And why not reward the man? He's obviously got some good ideas on the pitch. He has not flubbed this. And of course, I've probably jinxed him now. He's not flubbed a substitution yet this season. Not one. Not one. At least in the championship games I've seen, all of them I've watched in the championship, not one sub was out of place. He got every sub spot on in each of these 3 championship games. Absolutely brilliant stuff from Clevs. So, Billy, I agree with you. Sam has said on YouTube, I think Clevs will somehow be sacked this season. And if not, I think he could be poached by another club. Wow. Sam, I hope you're wrong on both counts. I predicted, by the way, Sam, before the season began, that Tom Cleverley would make it through the end of the season and will stay on as Watford manager. That was my prediction before the season began. That's before any of this winning streak, before any of it. I predict before the transfer market even shut tonight or last night now, because it's after midnight. I want to thank everybody, by the way, who's in the United Kingdom or beyond, who has been so patient and who has stuck by this very, very late hour. Here in San Francisco, it's very lovely and sunny, and it is 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, whereas in the UK and parts beyond, it is after midnight plus and a Saturday morning. So thank you very much, especially for those of you who are staying up very, very late. I will not keep you very too long. I mean, I want to get back also to these transfers and the analysis that I have and thoughts on it, but I won't keep you probably beyond the bottom of this hour. I know it's very late for some of you, but thank you very much for making the time. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate you listening as well. But again, Sam, your point on YouTube, I think that I think Tom Cleverley is going to stick around. He'll be here. He'll be here this season, even when Watford go through some rough patches, because it would be absolutely naive of us to think that Watford aren't going to go through some rough patches this season. And we're going to have some of us as fans jumping off the deep end, thinking that we're in trouble. Some of us will insanely call for him to be sacked. Look, every team, I don't care if you're Manchester City, every team goes through a rough patch. Every team, even City do. And, Watford are going to go through that this season. I hate to be the bearer of the cold water thrower over this great start, but Watford are going to have a couple of stretches where their character is going to be really tested. It's happened in every season. Even the seasons when we got promoted, had some issues with injuries, had some issues with this, had some issues with that. It happens. It happens. So, look, it's a lovely sugar rush to be on right now. It's a great time. It's always a great time to be a Watford fan, as far as I'm concerned, through the good, the bad, and the ugly. But keep in mind, fellow Watford supporters, we're going to have some part of this season where it's not going to be beautiful for us. And we're going to have to get behind these lads, get behind the manager. I think right now, for lack of I hate this term, but I have to say it, Tom Cleverley at the minute is bulletproof. I mean, I don't think that you can really fault Clebs at all since he's got here. As a manager, I think he's been brilliant. The backroom staff's been very good. You got Damon Lathrop, who's here. You got the guy from Real Madrid that came in. You've got the other coach that came back to Watford. I think their backroom staff looks really good. I'm very pleased with it. So that's where we're going with that. Billy Hughes says, Cleverley had some unfinished business. He will stay at least until we are promoted, and if so, after. Yep, I think so, Billy. I think there's a good chance this season to go to the point that Alex made earlier about being is it too optimistic to dream of playoffs? Certainly not based on the start, and certainly not based on the signings. I think it's a very smart assessment to make about Cleverley. I think Cleverley, I think he's got something to prove here, Billy, because Cleverley made those comments to, I think, the Watford Observer and our man there, Andrew French, about many of the people in the press and some of the fans counting out Watford this season. And he said, we're going to really, we're going to just do what we do. I don't see it that way at all. He is much more confident. Obviously, he has to be as the head coach, but he absolutely rubbished the idea that Watford are going to be finishing struggling. He sees it completely differently. And I think we all see it completely differently now as Watford supporters. Now that we've seen 5 games in both competitions so far, and Watford have been near flawless, and unfinished, says Billy Hughes, because he left us when we were relegated. He wants to end on a high. When he is done, he will leave. That is what Billy Hughes says on YouTube. Thank you, Billy, for the comments. Really appreciate them. Keep your comments coming on X and on YouTube. And look, we'll be here for the bottom of the hour. I want to get back now to my analysis of the rest of these incoming players. We have Duomo, the central midfielder. Pierre Duomo's come in as a permanent signing. Tom Ince has surprised me. I think the surprise for me of all the signings was getting Tom Ince in for 2 years on a new deal. I did not expect that, but I think I see what's going on. They want to have front office 2 or 3 veteran players to come in and keep leadership options open in each of the areas of the pitch. I think that's very true. Jonathan Bond came back in. That's another veteran, Johnny Bond. You remember him from back in the day. So I really think that bringing in players like a Bond, bringing in players, obviously, like a Paul Tom Ince, I almost said Paul, his father, Tom Ince, and bringing in Ogbonna in different areas of the field. And also, I think the best signing of the lot is Musa Sissoko. I mean, I don't know what you think. I think Musa Sissoko is the best signing that Watford have had. I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but I think that he is the most valuable signing of this transfer market for Watford. And it's no accident. I think the front office is doing the right thing. They have, again, I'll say it again, they brought in players, some of whom are veterans, in particular positions on the pitch. Whether it's Ogbonna in defense, whether it is Sissoko in midfield as a central holding midfielder, whether it is somebody the likes of, oh gosh, I'm just losing my train of thought here. Whether it's Ogbonna in defense, whether it's Sissoko in midfield, whether it is Tom Ince on that right side of the pitch, and or whether it's Jonathan Bond in goal. These are all specific areas of leadership that I think has been very carefully considered by the front office. And so I think the front office, the Watford front brass, has been very good at putting veterans in each area of the pitch, not only to be influencers, but to provide that leadership and to do the things on the pitch that are needed to get the team over the line in these first team contests. Watford this season have found ways to win games rather than be content with a draw. They found ways to win these games. And I think a lot of it's down to all of these players being hungry enough, all these players being energetic and determined enough, and also having the maturity, having played under Cleverley, a number of them just last season, to really kick on and fight more for each other, which is what they've done so far in this short season so far as we've just got underway for this new Sky Bet Championship season for Watford. Now, Almeida's come in here at Watford. We have Rico Vata, who's a younger player, a guy that knows his way around goal as well. Tivic has come in for Watford as well. That was a signing in the off-season. Who else? Oh dear. Larouci came in as well. All of these players, Larouci coming in on that left side where Ken Sema would play. And I think that's about all of all. And Doumbia, we got of course, back in February. So I don't count him, obviously, in the window. But the bottom line is that we have, I think, a very good array of players. We're going to probably let go of some of these because I think that's over the 25 player limit in addition to what we've got. But when you think about what we've got defensively, I think we got stronger defensively. We have a mix of youth and experience. You've got the idea of Ogbonna now, a defender who has been to West Ham, has actually picked up some silverware at West Ham. It's got that experience that you need. I think obviously in ways he replaces someone like Wes Hoot, who, look, Wes Hoot was off to Saudi Arabia. And so I wish Wes Hoot the best of luck as well. He's going to get the money. He's going to get the money there that obviously a lot of players are going there for. A lot of money on the table there for Wes Hoot and many others. So he is gone. I think Ogbonna will replace him and do well. You've got the likes of Matty Pollock, who's going to grow into a leader at some point. He might end up being a captain someday on this team. I can completely see it. Right now, we've got Musa as the captain, Musa Sissoko, which I think is a really good fit. He's been captain before at Watford, I think, Musa, when he was last here 3 years ago, 3 seasons back. I think there's a lot of experience. There's perhaps I probably wanted another central midfielder, even though we did get one. Maybe a more experienced one, but we already have midfielders. We already have Sissoko. We've got TDB. Georgie is more of an attacking midfielder. And I think Kwadwo Bar, as somebody said in the YouTube chat, is going to be effective. He's going to be good. If we keep him where he is, I think that he's going to benefit Watford with his pace. I think all in all, if I had to grade this, give a letter grade out now, it's more like a B to B plus for Watford, because the reality is we're not going to get a blockbuster deal in here. We don't have that kind of money at this club we love. It's not going to be that kind of market either. And you're going to have a lot of competitive fellow championship sides that are going to put in big money, or who've got more money than we do, who are going to be more aggressive with the moves they make. So that's why I really try not to look at what other clubs are doing in the championship on deadline day or during the window, because we can't compete with a number. We can't compete with a Leeds United and their pay scale. We can't compete with Leeds on that level. You know, I don't think we can compete with a Sheffield United. They just got parachute payments for being relegated. We can't compete with that kind of money, with what they got. You know, can't do that. So who cares whether Sheffield United gets this one and that one, and we don't? I mean, there's very little to complain about if you're a Watford supporter tonight or tomorrow morning, whenever you're watching this, whenever you happen to be watching. There's very little to complain about. I mean, if you have something to complain about, hit the request button and complain about it on X. Be glad to hear from you. Or if you just have a comment to make about the transfer deadline market in general, about Watford's place in that market, your thoughts about what Watford did, what you would have liked Watford to do if you're not happy with the market, if you're not happy with our window. Give your thoughts to us. Hit the request button on X, or if you're watching on YouTube at the Orns WFC YouTube channel, please let us know in the comments what you thought so far by looking at the comments on YouTube, the YouTube channel. I think Watford fans are quite satisfied with this transfer market. What we did, I thought we were energetic. I think, you know, one of these things about the market that you look at, and Watford's ability to get players in this time around, is although it was slow and underwhelming at first, I think it really came on for us well the last 2 weeks or so. We needed a striker. Our biggest concerns were a striker, another central defender, and a midfielder. And we did take care of all of that. Now, it might not have been exactly everything that people wanted, but I think we can be happy enough to say that we did address the areas of the pitch that we needed to. Obviously, Imran loses injured, so that throws a spanner in the works a bit. But I think that these players are going to be very much up for the competition for places, which I'm the most excited about. And I do think that the most important signing and the best signing that we've had this season in this window was Musa Sissoko. That's my feeling about it. What is your feeling? Who is the best signing that Watford got out of this transfer window? What did you think about that? Your comments are welcome. I will read them out. Or if you want to get on X and have a say, please hit the request button on X. Be more than happy to hear what you have to say, your thoughts about this deadline window and this transfer market for Watford. And Billy Hughes has chimed in again. Thank you, Billy, for your comments on YouTube at the YouTube channel at Orns WFC. Billy says, no complaints from him. No complaints, he says. And it's refreshing to hear a fan talking about the positives of this team and the team behind the scenes, because there are plenty of positives. Yes, yes, yes. Billy, there are plenty of positives. I think there's a maturity, actually, from the front office. I think that's really something I've talked about over the last few weeks and months. I do think that the front office has grown up a bit, to be frank. I really do. I think the front office has grown up some. I really do. There's a lot more to learn. We all make mistakes. There's obviously been some lean years here at the Vic. We've had some rough patches, but I think what's changed a lot, Billy, and what's become more positive is the actual manager. A lot of times this does start with the manager and the mentality of the manager, and the fact that Tom Cleverley is someone who is a known quantity, is a known entity, is helpful. He's very serious, though. We know that about Tom Cleverley. So he's not necessarily the most electrifying personality in the building. I've got to meet him. He's a very nice person, really good, honest, down-to-earth person who's very calm but very intense. But that's why Watford have won 5 out of 5. That's not the only reason, but he has set the tone, Billy, and everyone else watching and listening. He set the tone. And I think the front office has grown up. The front office has been much more judicious about how they're signing people. Obviously, the money is they're in a tough place with the finances. But Watford FC have made the most with what they've got. And I cannot complain 1 second. I couldn't imagine a Watford fan complaining about this transfer market now. I mean, I'm sure I can go on social media within 2 minutes and find somebody who's got something to complain about with Watford. You know, there always will be a fan somewhere amongst us, unless they are a troll or maybe a bot, could be that too, who will find something to complain about around Watford with a window that I think is a B minus, a B to B plus window now. I originally said B minus, but it's more like a B window, considering everything that they've done. B, maybe even higher than that, B to B plus. I don't think any Watford fan can complain about this. I really don't think so. They've got a diverse, versatile group of players. No problem with that. And they're going to be hungry for places. There's a winning attitude now. The manager made it very clear about the performances at the Vic. He wants nothing but the best out of the lads. He wants to turn Vicarage Road back into that winning fortress. And it's been happening. You know, last season, all the Watford matches that were played at the Vic, Watford only won 6 of them. 6 home matches won. So far in this brand new season, 4 home matches, 4 wins. And that's 4 consecutive wins in the space of 2.5 weeks. Just under 3 weeks. So they won more they've won almost as many home matches in the space of roughly 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks as they had won the entirety of last season, the whole 8.5 months. It's not too shabby. Not too shabby at all from a Watford side who this season lost Espria, lost Wesley Hood, and has loaned out and lost Shaq Ford, who didn't play a lot, but lost Shaq Ford and has now lost Hurtado on loan. But I think Hurtado is probably not going to play any more football for us. Anyway, that's how these things go. But this is a really, really good evolution right now. It's early, but it's a good sign. And as some of the Watford fans have said in here tonight, we've not seen stuff like this for a long time here at this club. Not for a long time. Billy Hughes says, this club is a business. Thank you, Billy, for your comments as ever. If you want to chime in like Billy, please hit the request button on X. Or if you're on YouTube like Billy is, please type in your comment. I will read it out here. Almost over, by the way, almost finishing up for the early morning hours. I know it's very late in the United Kingdom. I know in New Zealand, though, it's probably just around 12 o'clock in the afternoon or thereabouts, somewhere like that, if I'm not mistaken, or very late in the morning in New Zealand. So thank you very much there for listening, Oz, and of course everyone else who does listen in, whether you're listening in live or when you're listening in later on. People have popped in and popped out on X and on YouTube. They are here as well. So really good to see you on this Friday here in sunny San Francisco, California. And of course, it's nighttime across the United Kingdom, and it is Saturday, August the 31st there. And so the month of August almost closing out in the United Kingdom. And of course, that means tomorrow, Sunday, for you in the United Kingdom listening, it's Watford traveling to Bramall Lane. It's going to be a very, very interesting game, that. Sheffield United, of course, who got relegated, newly relegated Sheffield United, taking on Watford at Bramall Lane. That's going to be a really good game. And again, with Dan Jebison, that could be very spicy indeed. And Billy Hughes says, this club is a business and not a passion project of some millionaire with spare cash. And I think the link with Udinese is helpful. Yeah, that's a good comment there, Billy. Thank you. I think that's a good point that Billy makes on YouTube, because Udinese, of course, is the other club that the Pozzos own. And they used to own Granada as well. They sold that off, and it's Udinese and Watford, and it has been effective for Watford. It's perfectly within bounds. I know there were some questions about that from some members of the press, but that's perfectly within bounds. It's been a very effective thing, having the flexibility to loan out Bio after he had left Watford, technically left Watford, and then Udinese then said, all right, no, you can have him back on a loan. And so that made it very easy, and Bio will at least ply his trade. But now that just tells me a lot of very interesting things about what's going to happen. What's going to happen now? Are Watford going to just keep these three strikers? Is Rajovic going anywhere? I don't think Rajovic is going anywhere. Now, look, there are Watford fans who don't like Rajovic, not a big fan of their Rajovic, and I'm one of them. I'm not the biggest fan of Rajovic. He had a very good game from what I saw in the highlights against Plymouth the other night, but I'm not the biggest fan of Rajovic. But I don't think he's going anywhere. I think the club is going to probably hold him on. He didn't do himself any harm with the 2 goals of the brace he scored. So I think that Rajovic is going to be here. And I think I forgot how many years he signed. I think it was either undisclosed. Was it 2 or 3 years or an undisclosed deal with money? I don't remember on Rajovic off the top of my head. But Rajovic is going to be here in the building, whether some of us as Watford fans like it or not. So that's the reality. You can't have enough strikers. Each of the strikers we have does things a little bit differently. I think Bio works really hard, so I'm a big fan of Bio for the hard work and industry. Of course, like you, I wish he'd score a lot more goals for us. But that's just the way that goes, and that's probably why. Look, the only reason that he's leaving is not because Watford don't rate him. It's because he wants to leave. I mean, again, I want to reiterate this about Bio, who I'm a big fan of. The man worked so hard, but he wanted a new challenge. He wanted to be somewhere else. I can't blame him for that. It's not that he doesn't like Watford. I think he was happy at Watford. I think he's been happy at Watford. I'm sure he would like to score more goals. I'm sure he's not happy that he's not done that enough. I'm sure he's probably even more unhappy than some Watford fans are that he's not scored as many as he'd like. But he has scored that 1 goal that I thought was very important, obviously, last weekend against Derby. It was a spectacular effort. That's goal of the season material, isn't it? I mean, I think so. I think that could well end up being goal of the season before all is said and done. So look, Bio's going to walk out of here. He's going to walk out the door at the end of the season. And you've got to be, listen, some Watford fans will not shed any tears about that. But the fact of the matter is that the man works really, really hard. And look, if he wanted to go, he wanted to go. It's like Wesley Hood. Obviously, he wanted to leave. They were Matty Pollock reportedly threw out a transfer request earlier on in the year last season. So, and look where Pollock is now. He's with us, and he's obviously going to be a long-term fixture at this club now in that defensive line. So I think that this is what happens in football. We got to be realistic about that. The way I see it for the Watford supporters is that we've got competition for places, and that's what you want. You want competition for places. You want people who want to be at the club. And if you want people who want to be at the club, they're going to show you that they want to be there. Matty Pollock wants to be at the club. I mean, you can see how he's playing. James Morris has adapted his position. I thought Morris was going to be let go, but Morris obviously, his faith, Cleverley has paid some faith to him, and you can see Cleverley is really loyal. I mean, he does give players a chance. He does. I mean, James Morris was on the outside looking in, but he's been able to get a second chance. He played well from all accounts against Plymouth, and he played in central defense. That's versatility. So if you need to plug him in an emergency situation, he can play there. That's very sensible from Cleverley. So if there's an injury, God forbid, and of course we know no one escapes injuries, you can plug in a James Morris. He's not the tallest player, but he can play the position. He's beginning to play the position. Sometimes you have to throw players into the deep end. That's how they learn. And I think a good place to start is against championship opposition, by the way, in a cup contest. So Cleverley is doing the right thing. I've got no problem with what Cleverley's done so far. Obviously, who would? He's 5 out of 5 alive, right? 100% record. Got some nice players come in. He's got players that want to prove themselves. And the great thing about the transfer market and what Watford have done in it is, hey, who doesn't want to be part of a winning team? Winning is contagious. So when you bring in players, they're going to want to be part of a winning team, a winning squad. They will want to contribute to that. If you sign players and you've been struggling, the atmosphere and the mentality is going to be a little bit different if you're really being honest with yourself. But when you bring in players like the ones you brought in to a team that's won 5 out of 5, they're raring to go. They can't wait to be a part of the winning. They can't wait to be a part of a winning franchise, a winning formula, a winning team. They can't wait. So it's a win-win. I think it's so strange to say this, but I'm going to say it. The fact that Watford have won 5 out of 5, that is like a new signing in and of itself. That's like a new signing. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the reason why I say it's a new signing is because that attracts players. That attracts players that want to do well and give their all. They want to be a part of a winning team. And that's why I say it's like a new signing. At least it's a way to entice players in. And I think with what Watford's resources were, we did pretty blooming well on this window. How many times, as I close things out here in the next minute or two, and again, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching on YouTube, for listening in and popping in and out on X. As I wind down here with this, I want to just say, this is really a good thing when you have players who come in and do their thing. How many times have we had transfer windows where we have sat here at the end of deadline day and complained about how substandard the window was, how the front office didn't get it right? Where's the defender that we need? Where's the striker that we want? Where's that goalkeeper as a backup? What about that midfielder that we desperately craved? We've done that for a number of years as Watford fans. We've sat here and puzzled and shaken our heads and absolutely rolled our eyes at some of the transfers that we've done at times in the transfer market. Haven't done enough here, haven't done enough there. That's what the common refrain was from us in years past, including yours truly. I don't leave myself out of that. But this transfer market and what we did in it, I think is really smart business. I think it's a very good window. I'll say B to B plus, probably B. I'll keep it fair. I'll B, because I did say B minus before the last signing came in, but I'll say B. And maybe some people might say better than that, but I say B. I think it's a really good window for us, considering everything that happened and all the players we lost. People were very concerned with the loss of Espria. That's why a lot of people also were saying that Watford are going to be in trouble this season, because Espria was someone who brought you something, a technical player who could win a game for you. And I was not very high on Ince either. And Ince got that 2-year deal, and I'm thinking, what's that for? But I can see why it makes sense. He got a hat-trick in the first round of that Carabao Cup, didn't he? Now, to the point that was made on YouTube earlier, one other thing, someone has said, I forget who it was, that Cleverley will try to prove himself against City. Well, he will. He definitely will try to measure himself up against one of the world's 2 best managers. The other one is obviously Carlo Ancelotti. He'll try to go to the Etihad and measure himself up against the other, with maybe the second best manager in the world. And that's a great opportunity for Tom Cleverley on a personal level. But I am sure that he is really thinking more about trying to get something out of this team, getting a tune out of them at a place where we never win. It's been a hammer house of horrors for us at the Etihad. And you can just go through all the years and all the heartache and pain, the 8-0. I get it that was the second game in charge remember that? The second game in charge for Kike on his second go round, 8-0. I mean, that was just disgraceful. The 5-1 beating we got. I mean, we've lost at City so many times. We've lost at City home and away a million times. Can it be different when we play them? Catch them on an off night? Maybe they got 5 players out injured. They're not going to even play there. Then they'll barely play listen, City will play their C team against us. Forget the B team. They'll play their C team against us. Probably. That's our one chance. I don't want to denigrate our chances, but we have to be realistic about what happens against City. But City's still a way off. We've got the international break. So that's not going to be for at least another 3 or 4 more weeks before we play City. 3 weeks. Something like that. But look, this window was a very good one. Again, the standout signing for me, the best signing that we did was obviously Sissoko. He's been a transformational player. He was very good the first time around. I'm looking down the list and I'm thinking, who else was really? I mean, Jefferson's obviously going to be important. But again, as I said earlier about Jefferson, he is not here to be a savior. He is here to do his job. And that is going to be, of course, putting that ball in the back of the net. Watford has scored 15 goals already this season without strikers really scoring them. I mean, Bayer scored, okay. So technically 3 of those goals, 4 of those goals, 4 of those 15 goals that Watford has scored this season, more than any other team in any of the 4 leagues in England, by the way. 4 of those 15 goals came from striker position. Rajovic has 3 of them, and of course, obviously Bayer got the other one. So what you've got is versatility. What this transfer market in closing has also brought is an energy. You know, sometimes you get these transfers come in at Watford, and you kind of look at that side and go, ah, where's the energy? It's kind of like a patchwork quilt. But I don't sense that about this transfer market. I just think that there's an energy from the signings. There's an energy that I think can happen here at the Vic. Good atmosphere. There's a buzz about the place. The fans are looking forward to going to the Vic. The players are looking forward to playing at the Vic. And, of course, we're all looking forward to more of the same, please, at Vicarage Road and also away from home on the road as well. And so that concludes this edition of the Transfer Market Special on the transfer window analysis on X and on Orns WFC on YouTube. The podcast has been released. It is on Spotify and Apple right now, the latest episode where I go through, but in even more detail than here, some of my analysis on the transfer market. And the podcast was recorded before the Festi deal came in, the Festi deal where he came in just before the deadline, really. So that deal is not included in the podcast that I did, the podcast episode, but you can find Orns on Apple and Spotify, the latest podcast episode right now released on Friday, August the 30th. And of course, there will be more football this weekend, this coming Sunday, September the 1st, brand new month. Hopefully we can continue what we've been doing so far as the men's first team will travel to South Yorkshire, to Sheffield United, and to Bramall Lane, where we will take on the newly relegated Sheffield United team after we played them the season before last. I think we lost by a score of 1-0 or something like that. We beat them 1-0 as well to start the season 2 seasons ago, if you remember that correctly, when Dennis was still on the club, still at the team the first time around. And so that's where we're going, of course, after the All-Star break, or the international break. I keep saying All-Star break. International break. I'm thinking of American sports. International break. We'll come back and we'll be heading to Bramall Lane. Of course, on social media, follow Orns on X at OrnsWFC. Thank you to all of you on X who've been listening into this conversation, who have been typing in your comments as well. Thank you very much for that. And you can follow on Instagram at OrnsWFC as well. On Saturday, later on Saturday, I will be actually doing an Instagram talking about the transfer market again, transfer window. I'll be saying some things similar to what I've said here, but I'll also be saying some different things as well. So if you are on Instagram, please follow at OrnsWFC there, because I will be doing an Instagram live, a Orns Extra on Instagram Live, special edition, transfer market edition, of course. That will be Saturday. I don't know what time yet, but it could be very early, meaning that it could be early here in San Francisco, and it might be around maybe 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the United Kingdom. But I will definitely update on that, on when that gets going. But there definitely will be that. We'll be reading out your comments as well, your impressions and thoughts about this transfer window. And I think it's been a really good one for Watford. So that's where you can follow on X at OrnsWFC, on Insta at OrnsWFC, and of course on YouTube. Please subscribe to the Orns Watford FC in the YouTube channel at OrnsWFC. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for signing in, for joining, for listening, for watching, wherever you might be across the world, fellow Watford fans. Always a great pleasure to be speaking to you. My name is Omar, and again, I think it's been a great transfer window. I'd say B for me. That is my verdict. That is my grade, and I am sticking to it. Watford then 5 for 5, and the transfer market pretty good, pretty darn good. Experience, youth, players who are ready to go, and that is the way it always should be. So thank you very much, everyone. Take care on X. Take care on YouTube. And from me, Omar, you take it easy and have a very good day.